The cold wind of December swept through the small Canadian town of Alberta, rattling the windows of an old trailer home that sat quietly on the edge of a frozen street. Inside, a single mother named Emily held her daughter close under a thin blanket. The heater had broken again, and she was doing her best to keep the child warm. 8-year-old Lily looked up with innocent eyes and asked softly, "Mommy, do you think God forgot us?" The question hit Emily like a knife. She wanted to answer with faith and hope, but her lips trembled instead. It had been months since she lost her job at the diner, and the savings were long gone. She'd sold her wedding ring to buy groceries last week. The cupboards were nearly empty now. Emily brushed Lily's hair from her face and whispered, "No, sweetheart. God doesn't forget anyone. He's just busy helping others right now." But even as she said the words, her heart ached with uncertainty. Outside, snowflakes began to fall heavier. The sky dimmed, and the streets emptied. In another part of town, a man named Daniel was finishing a long day at the construction site. He was a single dad himself, raising his son after losing his wife to cancer 3 years ago. His life wasn't easy either, balancing work, parenting, and grief, but he had learned one thing from his late wife: when you can help, you must help. That night, as he drove home through the snow, he noticed a woman and a child walking along the side of the road. They were bundled in worn coats, struggling against the wind. Something in his chest tightened. He slowed down and rolled down his window. "Hey, you two okay?" he called out. Emily hesitated, clutching Lily's hand. "We're fine, just heading home," she replied quickly, embarrassed. Daniel could see they were anything but fine. "Hop in," he said gently. "It's freezing out here." After a long pause, Emily nodded, helping Lily into the truck. As they drove, Daniel made small talk, trying to ease the tension. He learned that Emily lived just a few blocks away from his own neighborhood. When he dropped them off, he noticed the dim light flickering inside her home and the cracked doorframe. "You sure you'll be okay tonight?" he asked. She nodded politely, thanking him for the ride. But something about the sadness in her eyes stayed with him long after he drove away. The next morning, Daniel couldn't shake the image of that little girl asking for warmth. At work, while the other men laughed and joked, his mind wandered back to Emily and Lily. When lunch break came, instead of eating, he drove to a local grocery store. He filled a cart with food, bread, milk, canned goods, some fruit, and even a small box of chocolates. He added a few blankets and a tiny stuffed bear that reminded him of his own son's childhood. That evening, Daniel parked a block away from Emily's house and quietly placed the bags by her doorstep. He left a simple note, "For you and your little girl. From a friend." Then he walked away without knocking. When Emily opened the door later that night, she froze. The groceries, the blankets, the stuffed bear, it all felt like a miracle. She covered her mouth with trembling hands, tears flooding her eyes. Lily squealed with joy, clutching the toy bear to her chest. "Mommy, see, I told you, God didn't forget us." Emily knelt down and hugged her tightly, her heart overwhelmed. "No, sweetheart," she whispered, "he didn't." Days passed, and Daniel kept helping from afar. He'd drop off firewood one night, warm clothes another, always anonymously. Emily began to notice the small kindnesses around her: the neighbor who shoveled her walkway, the postman who smiled extra wide. Slowly, the darkness that had settled in her heart began to lift. She started believing again, not just in God, but in people. One snowy afternoon, Emily finally discovered the truth. She saw Daniel at the local community center, helping serve meals to those in need. When their eyes met, recognition flickered. She approached him, her voice soft. "It was you, wasn't it?" Daniel smiled shyly. "Did it help?" She nodded, tears welling up. "More than you'll ever know." From that day on, they became friends, sharing coffee, laughter, and eventually, something deeper. Lily adored Daniel's son, and soon their two small families began to heal together. Emily found a part-time job at a daycare, and Daniel helped fix her heater. It wasn't charity anymore, it was community, it was care, it was something close to love. Months later, one evening as they all sat around a warm dinner table, Lily looked up again and asked, "Mommy, remember when I said maybe God forgot us?" Emily smiled, looking at Daniel and then at her daughter. "Yes, baby," she said softly. "I remember." Lily grinned. "Well, I think he sent Mr. Daniel to remind us he didn't." Outside, snow began to fall again, but this time, it felt different. The cold was still there, but so was the warmth, the kind that comes not from heaters or blankets, but from hearts willing to reach out. And in that little home, on that quiet street, faith was restored. Not because of miracles from the sky, but because one man decided to answer a prayer with action.